So on this occasion, we will hear remarks from our Executive Director and CEO, John Ando, followed by Ron Anderson, who is Chairman of the Board of the COMET, Rasheen Richardson, who's the Manager of the Richland Library Eastover Branch, Robin Waits, Executive Director for Historic Columbia, and Jonathan Johnson, the Project Coordinator of Columbia, South Carolina 63, Our Story Matters. Then we will recognize the family and have proclamations from the City of Columbia, the Town of Eastover, and Richland County. Thank you. Mr. Ando?
Top of the morning, everybody. John Ando, Executive Director of the COMET. I want to thank you for participating in this glorious event today. We are very pleased to celebrate Sarah Mae Flemming and what she's done to help start civil rights and include equity for those utilizing public transit. She's definitely an unsung hero, and I'm very pleased that we're able to celebrate this day, the 66th anniversary of her setting the stage for allowing everybody the ability to utilize public transportation. And I'm very grateful that you guys were able to attend this event. I'll ask Chairman Ron Anderson of the COMET Board of Directors to say a few words.
Good afternoon, or good morning. Dr. Martin Luther King said it's always the right time to do what is right. It was probably a day like today when Sarah Mae Flemming boarded her local bus to conduct essential travel on June 22nd, 1954. Very much like our current riders in 2020 who need public transit to get to work, access medical care, and connect to resources. Ms. Flemming's experience that day on the local bus helped to shine a light on racial injustice. Her story did not only change the local bus system, but our state and our nation for the better. Until now, there has not been a recognition from the major player in her story, the local bus system. Fortunately, the bus system has evolved, and in many ways, so have we. Although there is still work to be done, we are proud to be part of sharing this historic story and giving Ms. Flemming the recognition she deserves. On behalf of the COMET Board of Directors, we are honored to pay tribute today to Ms. Sarah Mae Flemming, a pioneer of civil rights and a local unsung hero. Next up is Mr. Richardson, manager of the Eastover Library.
Good morning. I'm Rasheen Richardson, Richland Library Eastover Location Manager, and I have the pleasure of welcoming you all. Thank you for joining us and helping us to safely gather. Over the past few months, there's been a lot of uncertainty, stress, and emotion. Nevertheless, we are here to recognize the courageous actions of one woman. Sarah Mae Flemming boarded a bus 66 years ago and changed the course of history. In order to move forward, we cannot forget our past. When we designed this library and reopened back in 2013, we made sure to include its rich history. Our shelves tell a story with countless images highlighting memories of people and places throughout the town of Eastover. And they came directly from Richland Library Eastover neighbors. And if you ever have the chance, please come and visit us and you'll see it amongst the shelves. Now we're trying to house honest conversations among local residents. We need to have talks about systematic racism in our state and in our country. We need to gain a better understanding of race, equity, and inclusion. We need to educate ourselves, and we all have a part to play. Coming up next, we have Mrs. Robin Waits, the Executive Director of Historic Columbia. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Robin Waits. I'm the Executive Director with Historic Columbia, and I'm delighted to be here today. When I first learned the story of Sarah Mae Flemming from Dr. Bobby Donaldson in 2012, I was struck by the courage of this young woman who on June 22nd, 1954, just 4 days shy of her 21st birthday, boarded a bus, sat down, and in doing so, changed the course of history. 66 years ago, Sarah Mae Flemming became the public face of the fight to desegregate interstate transportation in South Carolina after being assaulted on the bus for sitting in the wrong seat. After more than 3 years of dismissals, appeals, and 2 trials, Flemming received no personal financial compensation for her case. However, her action paid dividends in a way that would be incredibly far-reaching. 1 year after the incident, the U.S. Fourth Circuit Court ruled that separate but equal facilities can no longer be regarded as a correct statement of the law. The defendants appealed this decision to the U.S. Supreme Court, who on April 23, 1956, dismissed the appeal as frivolous, leaving most observers certain that the ban on segregation on interstate buses was deemed unconstitutional. Flemming, speaking to the Associated Press after the ruling, offered 2 sentiments. It was the right thing to do. I only hope it won't lead to trouble. Quite the contrary. The ruling provided the legal roadmap for Rosa Parks' case that would soon follow. This community has a legacy of remarkable leadership that arises in myriad ways across time, and Sarah Mae Flemming is but one example. She was the eldest child of farmers, Mac and Rosetta Flemming, descendants of men and women enslaved in Lower Richland. They raised 7 children on 130 acres about 4 miles north of here. She attended Weber School through the 10th grade and spent the early 1950s working as a maid, sending most of her paycheck to her parents to help support her younger siblings. This young woman of humble beginnings took a seat, a small, courageous act that would change the course of history. And it's only fitting that she should have a seat reserved moving forward. In 2013, as Jonathan will probably note, Columbia SC63 and the City of Columbia honored Flemming by renaming the corner of Main and Washington Streets, where she was ejected from the bus, as Sarah Mae Flemming Way. In 2019, Historic Columbia and the Women's Rights and Empowerment Network included Flemming in the inaugural group of Columbia's City of Women honorees. This morning's recognition in her hometown of Eastover is indeed a fitting tribute to her extraordinary action. Thank you to the COMET for ensuring that this legacy is codified with a permanent seat on the bus. And Jonathan Johnson with Columbia SC63 will follow.
Good morning. I've had the fortunate pleasure of following Robin Waits, and she said exactly what I was going to say, which is perfect. It gives me a chance to kind of say what I want. My name is Jonathan Johnson. I'm the project coordinator for Columbia SC63 Art Story Matters Initiative. In 2013, this project began as a vision of Mayor Steve Benjamin, with representatives of City of Columbia, Historic Columbia, the Columbia Metropolitan Convention and Visitors Bureau, and the University of South Carolina. Led by Dr. Bobby Donaldson, this project was established to spend a year gathering, preserving, and showcasing images, artifacts, and testimony to ensure that the extraordinary struggle for freedom and justice in this city is told. While it was a one-year project, we are 7 years strong, and we have had an incredible journey. Through wayside signs on Main Street, historical markers throughout downtown, tours, exhibitions, programs, interviews, school and church presentations, we continue to document and tell the incredible stories and examples of struggle, sacrifice, and service that gave rise to one of the most transformative moments in American history, the Civil Rights Movement. Today, as we stand here, we are reminded that it is impossible to document the struggle for change and social justice in our community or in our nation without paying tribute to Miss Sarah Mae Flemming Brown, a brave young woman from this community who defied laws and customs in order to claim her right as a citizen of this country. Over 7 years ago, when this initiative began, local community members spoke about the extraordinary bravery of a then young Sarah Mae Flemming, who sat down in the white section of the city buses on June 22nd, 1954. They spoke about how she was a native of Eastover and how when she sat down on the bus that day, she was going to work. Not only that, she was going to work one of the 2 jobs that she was juggling in order to help support her family back home. They told us about how she was attacked and how she had the courage to fight back through the courts, where she agreed to file a lawsuit that ultimately led to the legal desegregation of buses across the state. In 2013, as Robin mentioned, at the corner of Main and Washington, was a dedicated wayside sign established in her honor. That same year, that street corner was renamed Sarah Mae Flemming's Way. On the day of the dedication, her family received the key to the city of Columbia. We also hosted a viewing and a panel discussion about a powerful documentary about Sarah Mae Flemming entitled Before Rosa. In every school, conference, university, church, and anywhere we have the opportunity to talk about civil rights in South Carolina, we make sure that we tell the story and legacy of Sarah Mae Flemming, because her story matters. After she won the case, as Robin mentioned, a reporter asked her, "So what's next? What will you do?" And she said, "It was the right thing to do. I just hope it doesn't cause too much trouble." And here you have a historic figure, both right and wrong at the same time. It was the right thing to do, but it caused a lot of trouble. Her actions and her lawsuit inspired others across the state to join the fight for civil rights. 13 months after her attack, in the Montgomery Advertiser, the front page news story, this is Rosa Parks' hometown, it says, "U.S. court rules bus segregation illegal." And it talks about Sarah Mae Flemming from Eastover, South Carolina, winning her court case in Columbia. 5 months later, Rosa Parks takes her seat in history on December 1st, 1955. When the reporter asked Ms. Flemming that question, she would have never known that her actions would have had so much effect on this country. She would have never known that Attorney Fred Gray, Rosa Parks' attorney, was going to use her case to show there was a legal precedent and that Rosa Parks was not wrong for sitting down in the white section of the bus, because it had already been done in Columbia, South Carolina. Sarah Mae Flemming's actions created a domino effect of change that helped affect the civil rights movement on a national scale. To the family of Ms. Flemming Brown, I thank you all for being willing to work with us over the years as we strive to continue to share your loved one's story. And to the COMET, I am in awe of this initiative of saving Sarah's seat, and I'm thankful that you all are joining us in this effort to continue telling the story of Sarah Mae Flemming. Thank you.
It is now my honor to recognize the family of Sarah Mae Flemming, her granddaughter, Mrs. Kimberly Mox, and her grandson-in-law, Mr. Chester Mox. I'd also like to recognize members of the COMET Board of Directors, Chairman Ron Anderson, Mrs. Joyce Dickerson, Ms. Lil Moon, Mayor Barry Walker of Irmo, Mayor Geraldine Robinson of Eastover, and Mr. Andy Smith of Forest Acres. Now I would like to ask for the family to come up for the proclamations. We'll start by giving the proclamation for the City of Columbia, and our chairman of the board, Mr. Ron Anderson, will read that. He will be followed by the mayor of Eastover for that proclamation, and then Mrs. Joyce Dickerson will read the proclamation for Richland County Council.
Thank you. Never done this, so I was appointed by the City of Columbia, and I want to thank y'all for being here, and thank you so much. City of Columbia, a proclamation of Sarah Mae Flemming Day. Whereas Sarah Mae Flemming, the granddaughter of slaves, was born in Eastover, South Carolina in June 28, 1933. And whereas on June 22nd, 1954, 20-year-old Sarah Mae Flemming, who was working as a maid in Columbia, boarded a crowded Columbia bus operated by SCNG and took a seat in what she believed was an appropriate area of the segregated bus. And whereas when the white bus driver, vested with the powers of a deputy sheriff to enforce segregated seating on the bus, asked Sarah Mae Flemming to leave her seat and move to the rear, Ms. Flemming resisted racial custom by attempting to exit from the front of the bus, whereupon the driver struck her and ejected her from the bus on the corner of Main and Washington Streets. And whereas, with encouragement from civil rights activists and attorneys, she filed suit against SCE&G, dismissed in federal court in Columbia, Sarah Mae Flemming's case was moved to the 4th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Richmond, Virginia in July 1955, who ruled that Brown desegregation mandate be applied to public transportation, in turn striking down segregation on city buses. And whereas the ruling occurred 17 months prior to Rosa Parks taking her stand against segregation on city buses in Montgomery, Alabama, and the ruling decided in Sarah Mae Flemming's case was cited in the lawsuit that brought an end to the Montgomery Bus Boycott, made famous by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And whereas in 2013, the intersection of Main and Washington Streets received a historical marker, and the corner was declared Sarah Mae Flemming Way, and Sarah Mae Flemming was honored at that time by the University of South Carolina, Historic Columbia Foundation, the City of Columbia, and Experience Columbia. And whereas June 22nd, 2020 will mark the 66th anniversary of Sarah Mae Flemming's actions to stand for her rights. Now, therefore, I, Stephen K. Benjamin, Mayor of the City of Columbia, South Carolina, along with my fellow members of Columbia City Council, do hereby proclaim June 22nd, 2020 to be Sarah Mae Flemming Day in the great city of Columbia, and urge my fellow citizens to recognize and participate in its observance.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And welcome to the town of Eastover. Today, the town of Eastover is proud to proclaim today as Sarah Mae, we call her Kitty Brown Flemming Day. Whereas Sarah Mae Flemming Brown exhibited unfathomable courage and boldness to challenge the unjust social construct of her day, and whereas by faith and unshakable confidence in her inherent civil rights, she on June 22nd, 1954, took a seat near the front of a segregated city bus operated by South Carolina Electric and Gas Company. And whereas by faith she graciously endured humiliation and argued against segregation on Columbia buses in the Federal Court of Columbia, and then in the 4th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Richmond, Virginia. And whereas by faith she was victorious in her case and raised significant legal obstacles for the civil rights needed in the town of Eastover and throughout the United States. And whereas her heroism, though unuttered for a time, served as the foundation for the success of the Browder versus Gale U.S. Supreme Court case that was sparked by Rosa Parks' defiant deed. And whereas her immeasurable efforts, however, changed the town and the United States for the better. Now therefore be it resolved this 23rd day of June, 1920, that I, Geraldine Robinson, the mayor of the town of Eastover and council, do hereby proclaim today as June 23rd as Sarah Flemming Brown.
And whereas the NAACP filed a lawsuit on her behalf, and on July 1955, the U.S. 4th Circuit Court of Appeal ruled that Brown desegregation mandated be applied to public transportation. And whereas the ruling was cited in a lawsuit that brought an end to Montgomery Bus Boycott and which was made famous by activists Dr. Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. And whereas in 2013, as a part of Columbia's 1963 project, the intersection of Main and Washington received a historical marker at the corner and declared it Sarah Mae Flemming Way. Whereas, in honor of the 66th anniversary of Miss Fleming's ride, the COMET will launch an awareness campaign about her contribution to the civil rights movement in our city, county, state, and the country by saving her seat on every bus in the fleet for the summer of 2020. And now, therefore, be it resolved and proclaimed that Chairman Paul Livingston of District 4 and Richland County Council are proud to support the effort of the COMET to commemorate the honorable and historic work, the boldness and courageous act demonstrated by Sarah Mae Flemming. And it is signed by Chairman Livingston and our clerk, Kim Roberts. And it's attested on the 17th day of June 2020. Thank you so very much.
So right now, we want to call your attention to how we are honoring Mrs. Flemming and her legacy. At the Eastover Parking Ride at the Richland Library, she will be standing here with a placard about her story from today until August 22nd. On all 85 of the COMET buses, we are saving a seat for Mrs. Flemming, and you will see a cutout of her on the seat right behind the driver with a notation about her story and about her contribution. We welcome all of you coming here today to come up and read and view these things. Take a picture if you'd like. And at this time, I would like to ask the board members, Mrs. Flemming's family, to come and we will cut the ribbon not only for this auspicious occasion, but also for the new parking lot at the Richland Library at Eastover. Thank you.